Hi, Will from Fologram here. In this tutorial, we're going to cover how to manage polygon counts of your models, and specifically how to render curves on the HoloLens, which will not render by default with Fologram. I'm going to go through using the apply curve piping and extract piped curves commands in Rhino in order to convert your curve geometry into mesh geometry, manage the polygon count of that geometry, and then render it on the HoloLens. So to get started, we're going to launch Fologram. Okay, we're all good. Also going to turn on recording. So I have a model here in Rhino. It's a bunch of curves. You'll notice that on the headset, nothing is displaying because by default, these curves won't display. Now, a lot of the time, or if you're familiar with modeling in Rhino, one approach to converting curves into solid geometry is to use the pipe command. And let's try piping one of these in Rhino. So that creates some NURBS geometry, which will show up on the HoloLens. So you can see it there, it looks good, it's very, very smooth. But that pipe geometry creates a lot of mesh faces. If we type mesh on this guy with standard number of polygons, it's making a lot of faces in there. And if your model contains a lot of curves or pipes, it's going to very, very quickly overwhelm what we can render on the GPU of the HoloLens. So best practice is not to use the pipe command. Instead, we want to generate meshes from our curves using a specific command in Rhino that does so. Or if you're a little bit more comfortable with working with Grasshopper, you can use the Fologram mesh pipe component to mesh any curves in your model. So I'm going to select all of my curves in Rhino that I want to display on the HoloLens and use the apply curve piping command. There's a few options for this one. If you have a lot of curves, or if you're running this command just for the first time and you want to try and calibrate your model on the HoloLens, good practice is to start with very, very few polygons and then add more detail as you go along to find an appropriate sort of limit between detail and performance on the headset. So let's turn the segments down to 4, which essentially creates a box along the profile of your curve. And we're going to turn the accuracy down from the default, which is 50, I think. So let's make an accuracy of 5. And then we can leave the preview on or off. This doesn't actually create any geometry in Rhino, it just previews the geometry. So when we first run this command, we'll see what our model is going to look like in Rhino, but we won't necessarily see it on the HoloLens. So I'm going to run it. This shows you the low polygon mesh model of all of those curves. Nothing shows up on the HoloLens yet because this is just a preview in Rhino. And what I'm then going to do is I'm going to type in and run the extract piped curve command, which will take the preview of these meshed curves and turn them into actual geometry, which will show up on the HoloLens. So when I hit enter on this command, I'm just going to be looking down here at the model. All of those pipes should then display. And you'll notice they show up really, really quickly because this is a very, very low polygon model. A good process is to, I'm going to select those meshes, delete them, they'll disappear again from the HoloLens. We can work upwards in detail, so I'm going to try selecting all of these curves, running the apply curve piping command, and just slowly increasing the accuracy. So let's try making it 25, hit go. You can see that adds more faces to my curve. I'll increase it again to 50, hit go. We're getting more and more mesh faces. Type extract pipe curve and look at my model, and you'll see that that one takes a little bit longer to load. So those curves come through one by one because we're sending more mesh faces to the headset. So you'll find that if you're loading up your model and you're seeing the model appear in chunks on the headset, it's because your model is consisting of too many polygons, and you should consider reducing them or hiding parts of your model. Oops, just exited Fologram. If you want to reduce the level of detail in your model, again, there's two solutions for doing that. One is to run the reduce mesh command, which will try to reduce the number of faces in your model while keeping the shape of your model, or form and shape of your model. The other is to use the decimate mesh component in Fologram for Grasshopper. And the last one is to use the Fologram optimize document command, which will do all of that reduction for you. You need to be a little bit careful when you're using the optimize document command because this can oversimplify your geometry pretty quickly, but it's worth experimenting with.